with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. And basically what's happened now is that the parents will be holding a final validation workshop next week on a new social protection policy before it's presented to the Cabinet for approval. So enlightening us a little bit more about this will be Maoto Ablo. He's the Director in Policy Monitoring Evaluation at the Ministry, and also Richard Ajete, who's the Head of Social Protection at the Ministry also. Good morning to you both and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
All right. Now, when we talk about your ministry, we talk about the Ministry of Gender. Everybody knows that part. The children, everybody knows that part. But when it comes to social protection, there seems to be somewhat of a question mark with that. So could you kindly clear for us what you would term as social protection?
Thank you. And good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. When we're talking about social protection, we are basically talking about actions that are taken by a government or civil society organization or other partners to address issues of vulnerability and exclusion as well as poverty.
Okay.
Actions which could be goods, which could be services, which could be transfers, that will enable this segment of our society who are considered to be extremely poor, vulnerable, and excluded to make a meaningful living, at least a basic, minimum standard of living should be maintained.
Okay.
So if you are doing things like this, we can describe it as social protection.
Okay.
In any cast across.
Under that, are we talking about things like basic health care, minimum wage, things of that sort?
Exactly, we are there. We're talking about people being able to live meaningfully, access to health,
right,
access to education for our children,
right,
access to some basic income, for all the age groups, children, those in the working age, as well as who are elderly, who cannot do any work, and also people who are severely disabled and cannot do anything to, provide for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to social protection interventions, there are various ministries with their own policies. In regards to your own, and regarding that you have a lot of stakeholders involved as well, how are you going to ensure that you've got proper coordination with all the parties that are involved in this?
Yeah, I think basically, yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. When you look at the various social protection interventions we have within the country, there's a fragmentation within the social protection systems.
Okay.
Meaning that these programs don't really have holistic policy. So this policy, social protection policy that we are talking about now, is to ensure cohesion and coordination of all these interventions.
Okay.
To be able to manage the shocks and risks of this vulnerable excluded in our society.
Okay. So
maybe if I should add, the issues that we're talking about, poverty, vulnerability, and exclusion, there's no single program or intervention that can address it. So we need a set of interventions which are complementary to one another.
Right.
Okay. So as you rightly said, we have sectors of education addressing the issue of education of our children, building the needed human resource capital.
Yep.
We have the Ministry of Agriculture, to address the issue of food production and then consumption. We also have the health sector to ensure that all Ghanaians, or everybody living in Ghana, has good health and be able to go about his or her duties. And a number of firms. And as a result, we need to bring all these interventions because they are complementary to one another. Okay, let me just give you an example. If you provide health care, let's say through national health insurance,
yep,
okay, people are having access to basic health. People must also eat. Okay, so you need to make sure people have access to food. Okay, and then again, the children must have access to education, building the human capital.
Right.
Okay. And at the same time also, people need to be able to get some work to do to have some basic income.
Yes.
Okay. So when you put all these things together, you realize that you are creating an opportunity for somebody to make a living. So we cannot do one without the other.
Understand.
And therefore all these sectors must work as a team. So we have put in place a coordinating mechanism. And this at the national level, at the regional level, district level as well as the community level, so that our actions are coordinated to be able to address the issue holistically.
Great, wonderful. All right, now, I mean, in regards to this policy address, I mean, when in regards to emergency situations, how will this policy assist in regards to the intervention when it comes to those situations?
Yeah, I think I need to answer that question. You know, the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection, we also implement what is known as emergency programs. We term it as emergency link. Even recently, we implemented a program for the June 3rd disaster victims.
Right.
And so what happened is that if you have to have a linkage between the policy and this policy and this emergencies, there should be a linkage. And that's what Mr. Mauto talked about, the complementarity.
Yeah.
So lessons that we have learned through the progress of the design, the development and implementation of this program, we incorporate it into the main framework of the policy.
Okay.
And that
things that we do to a situation, we manage the situation after it's happened. What's going to be done in regards to prevention beforehand, before any of these emergencies do happen?
Yeah, that's what we have talked about, the institutional arrangements. As my colleague had mentioned, we have within this institutional arrangement we have NADMO, National Disaster Management Organization. They have this responsibility. Of course, we also have the structure that district assemblies and the communities. First of all, to educate the public, about some of these things, not the natural ones, some that can maybe the rains are coming, the Bagri Dam is being opened, to lead to flooding, to at least provide some of warning to people that these are things which are likely to happen, and therefore they take precautionary measures to address. So when it occurs, normally NADMO moves in first to identify the affected victims and provide some immediate relief, a place to lay their heads, some water to drink, some basic to eat. Then, because of the complementarity, then the social protection interventions actually now come in to bring them up from the current situation to the normal situation which they were before the disaster occurs. Yeah.
All right. Tell us about the validation workshop that will be taking place next week.
The validation workshop, we have done a zonal consultation already, and this is the national validation. It's happening at the place at La Pab, Royal Beach Hotel on 13th October 2015, between the period of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And basically what we intend to do is to review the draft policy. We have come up with the zero draft policy, and to bring all stakeholders together to review, so that we're able to validate the information and the data that is gathering during the initial stage of the policy development process. And then also to be able to share and know the institutional arrangements regard to the role that each MDAs will play in regard to social protection. So basically this is what the whole validation workshop is about.
Who will be at the workshop? Who's invited? Is anybody invited? Can they come and take a look and see what's happening?
Why not? We are inviting all the key stakeholders to this workshop. As my colleague has said, he's right on point. After these consultations, we've taken the views of people across the country. What should our social protection policy look like?
Right.
What kind of ingredients? What kind of inputs? And the basic reason is that we want the policy to address issues on the ground, not the policy that is hanging. So we pick up the issues. Now at the national level, we need to get the national level stakeholders on board. It's about building ownership for the policy, so that the implementation, because we have multifaceted institutions who will be implementing this policy, so they need to be on board. So we want to take the final one,
so that everybody is on the same page, they can move forward with this policy. Wonderful stuff.